Let's bring in the Pentagon Press Secretary, John Kirby. John, thank you for joining us this morning. Let's start out with the latest on the evacuation effort right now. What is happening? Is the airport secure?
The airport is open and flights are going in and out, George. There's still some security we have to make sure, particularly around the civilian side, the southern side. But the airport is up and running. Operations are continuing. Over the last 24 hours, we were able to move out more than 700 people. More than 150 of those were American citizens, also including some Afghans in that number. And over the same course of time, we were able to flow in almost 1,000 more American troops, bringing the totals to about 3,500 or so. More will be coming in over the next 2 days.
What about the Americans who didn't reach the airport and were told to shelter in place? Are you in contact with them? Can you protect them?
The State Department has actually issued a message to those Americans, giving them the cues for when and how they can start to assemble at the airport. Obviously, we want to be careful about talking to this with any great specificity because the situation in Kabul is still so tense in terms of how they would manage to get there. But our focus militarily, George, is very squarely on the airport, making sure that we can keep it up and running, that we can maintain security and stability there. That's the focus of the military right now.
What about those 30,000 Afghans who need to be rescued? We've seen these heartbreaking pictures of people chasing the planes, packed into planes. What is the latest on them? When do we expect to have everyone out?
Well, we're planning here at the Defense Department to be able to temporarily house here at U.S. installations, 3 installations here in the United States, up to 22,000 of them. And I would remind that since 2005, we've actually moved out 70,000 some odd Afghans and just 2,000 in the last couple of weeks or so. So, I mean, we're working on this very, very hard in concert with the State Department to get out as many as we can. And we've been saying here at the Pentagon, we plan on being on the ground there in Afghanistan for the next couple of weeks. It's not just about moving out Americans. It is very much about meeting our moral and sacred obligations to those Afghans who helped us over the last 20 years, getting as many of them out as we can.
It appears like the entire government was absolutely blindsided by the speed of the Taliban takeover there in Afghanistan. If the intelligence was so faulty on this measure, how are we going to be able to make sure the Taliban don't allow al-Qaeda and other terrorists to reconstitute in Afghanistan and pose a threat to the United States?
I would tell you, George, that while nothing is as good as having intelligence right on the ground, so intelligence will certainly be more difficult to discern going forward. It's not going to be impossible. We have done over-the-horizon counterterrorism operations in other parts of the world. We are doing over-the-horizon counterterrorism operations in other parts of the world. We know how to do this. There's not a scrap of the earth that the United States military can't hit. And in fact, over the last few weeks, we have been conducting airstrikes in support of Afghan national security forces against the Taliban. Now, this isn't exactly over-the-horizon counterterrorism strikes, but it does show you a model of how it can be done. We can do it from long ways away, and we're also trying to work with countries in the region to see if we can improve our options for geography, time, and space to get a little bit closer.
Finally, we just heard Senator McConnell say that the president overruled his military leaders in making this decision. Is that what happened?
The commander-in-chief is the commander-in-chief, George. It's not about overruling his military leaders or his other advisors. He has given options. He has given the pros and cons for each option, and then it's up to the commander-in-chief to decide. He was advised by the Defense Department. We had a voice. We had a seat at the table. We provided our advice and counsel. The president made his decision, and now we're in execution mode, George. That's the way it works. We follow the orders of the commander-in-chief, and that's what we're doing.
So did it run counter to the president's? Did your advice run counter to the president's decision?
I'm not going to talk about the advice and counsel that our leaders here at the Pentagon give the president. That needs to remain in the private space, George. But again, we had a voice. We had a seat at the table. There were lots of options teed up to the commander-in-chief. He chose this one, and we are in full mode of execution, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
John Kirby, thanks very much. I'll be heading to the White House tomorrow for an exclusive interview with President Biden, his first since withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.